It's time now for the third race of the weekend in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge and the Porsche Club Championship. Conditions, as you can see, better than we've had them at any point so far this weekend. As far as the grid is concerned, Leighton Clark again on pole position. Next to him is Gary Marsh. Row 2, Mike Johnson and Bertie Carruthers. In the Club Championship, it's Sumpter and Kavanagh on row 1, Carneal and Lambert on row 2, Harrison and Dawson on row 3. Who's going to be champion then? Is it going to be Carneal or is it going to be Chris Dyer? For the moment, we'll focus on Paul Winter. We're on board with him. As the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge race about to get underway, it does so now, and he makes a decent start, or rather a car on the row ahead of him makes quite a slow start, but it's Leighton Clark leading and Mike Johnson has gone up into second position as the field rounds Copse for the first time. It looks like it's Marsh in third, Carruthers in fourth, as we go on board with Stephen Ritchie, who's had a bit of a wretched weekend so far.
But he's getting pretty aggressive into Maggots and Beckett's. That's one position he's made up past Bertie Carruthers. He's now tucked right up behind Paul Winter, and he's looking to the outside of him as well. So to move up into, I think that's the battle for fourth position, isn't it? Yeah, and he's made it through. So Stephen Ritchie on form now. The man who got the slow start, I think, was Fraser Robertson from the inside of row 3 as the Porsche Club Championship gets underway. And that looks like Scott Cavan has taken the lead around the outside of Mark Sumpter as they made their way into Copse Corner. Yeah, so Sumpter down into second place. But here comes the GT3 Cup battle, and Stephen Ritchie now is trying to make his way past Gary Marsh. He's on fire.
Absolutely he is, as they head down towards the Vale. Just as a side note, I noticed that we did have Mark McAleer starting from the back of the grid there, so good to see that he's got his car back out again, but problems there.
Yeah, that's Fraser Robertson, isn't it? I thought I saw his car parked off at Copse Corner. He obviously got a poor start, which was due to a mechanical failure rather than poor clutch control. But here come the cars in the Club Championship, and Mark Sumpter's going to lose out another position if he's not careful. There is Harrison making his way through behind Richard Lambert up in front of him, but Sumpter coming under a lot of pressure from Marcus Carneal as they drop down into the Vale, and Carneal is up into second position in the Porsche Club Championship.
Absolutely, so a great sight. I think this could possibly be the best race of the weekend for these cars, with the conditions now having improved. I think that makes it a lot more possible that we'll have some really close racing. Now here, the battle for the lead, and Leighton Clark, well, he's not been challenged this hard so far, and Mike Johnson going side by side with him, and he takes the lead.
Well, we saw Mike Johnson had a quick car in a straight line in his battle earlier on with Bertie Carruthers, but this is the first time, as you say, Ian, Leighton Clark has been challenged. 135 miles an hour on the entry into Copse, drop it down to about 90 for the apex, and he's stuck right up behind now. It looks like it's going to be these two. Well, it's definitely going to be these two battling for the lead, because they are absolutely dropping Bertie Carruthers and the like behind them. Oh, too much curb on the second part of Beckett's there, and that's going to lose Leighton Clark a few car lengths to the leader Mike Johnson.
Here we are then. This is the number 90 car then of Paul Follett, and he there racing away with the 72 car of Richard Bennett in the Porsche 944. You can see all of these front engine cars running in a line, but there is Scott Kavanagh leading the way then, Carneal in second, Sumpter is third, and Kevin Harrison trying to make a move on Richard Lambert for fourth position, but it doesn't work out for him at Copse Corner. Good to see Carneal up into second place from his point of view. We need to try and see what Chris Dyer is doing within Class 2 as well, because that's going to be crucial as far as the championship battle is concerned. There's still very little to choose between them. It's gone right down to the wire. You can see the two blue and white cars making their way through, or the blue and yellow car rather, of Peter Morris, a bit further back down the order than we might have expected to see a driver who's been pretty successful and is sponsoring this weekend's events as well.
I think that was Brian Robinson in the other blue and white car involved in that scrap. Coming through now is the 22 machine we've seen plenty of today and yesterday, Kieran Brewer. But here we are back on board with Stephen Ritchie. He's up behind Paul Winter then in this continuing battle for what I think is going to be third position overall, isn't it, as they come into the left-hander at Brooklands, and it looked like Paul Winter getting a little out of shape, Ritchie going in a little bit deep, and he needs to be careful because not far behind, there you can see him in fact, is the number 19 car of Gary Marsh, rounding Luffield once more.
Yeah, fairly tight between the three of them, isn't it? And Ritchie certainly having his best race of the weekend so far. Let's have a look at the kind of speeds he might be able to attain in a straight line here. We're looking at 135 yesterday when he's hit that. He's just about travelling 140 there. A drier track, of course, than we had earlier on in the second race of the weekend. The fastest man out there, though, is this man, Mike Johnson, leading the way from Leighton Clark. But of course, we must emphasise Johnson in an invitation class car.
Yep, absolutely. We go on board with Leighton Clark as he exits through Chapel now, heading down the Hanger Straight. He is substantially behind. He's going to be troubling 150 by the time he actually gets to the end of the straight here. Into Stowe Corner he comes now. And like I say, not really troubling the back of Mike Johnson just yet, as all gets very sideways on the exit of Stowe there, so not quite sure what happened, dropping down into the Vale, but Mike Johnson looking fairly comfortable out front at the moment as they make their way in towards Club. These two miles ahead of the third place battle that we were watching a minute ago with Paul Winter.
On board with Richie then, and very close now between these two as they make their way through the Vale. Paul Winter still ahead of Stephen Ritchie, but is it going to stay that way for very much longer? Ritchie runs wide there on the exit of Club Corner. I don't think it's cost him a great deal of ground though, and he closes up under braking for the Abbey chicane, as you would expect. I thought he might throw the car up the inside there, but he decided not to. Now they come out of Abbey, down the straight towards Bridge Corner. Fantastic corner. It's a great challenge in any car, and head now to the left-hander at Priory, into this complex that ends the lap here at Silverstone. Is this going to present an opportunity for Ritchie? A series of lower speed corners really, but he gets alongside here through Brooklands now, but that's going to put him on the outside for Luffield Corner, but he's got ahead, and just running off the circuit there slightly was Paul Winter. So Paul Winter discontented with that, no doubt.
I think that was Paul Winter making the mistake rather than the pass being made by Ritchie, because Winter went in very, very deep into Brooklands. He comes across the line now, and is he going to be coming under any pressure anytime soon from Gary Marsh? It doesn't look like it at the moment as he swings his way through Copse Corner once more. And well, Stephen Ritchie, this is a much better performance from him, whether it was the conditions, whether it was a problem with the car that he's fixed in time for this race. Whatever happens, Ritchie is back on the pace as he makes his way through Maggotts and Beckett's.
Yeah, and you can see he's got quite a lot of daylight between himself and Paul Winter. The drivebusiness.com backed car is just pulling away now as they pass one of the slower cars already down the Hanger Straight. Underneath the vehicle bridge they go, into Stowe Corner now, with several car lengths between each of them. Through the right hand they go, and it's Ritchie that's comfortably ahead. Can he convert this into what would be a podium position in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge? Now here we have the Porsche Club Championship situation. Sumter's still there in third, but now he's got the black car climbing all over the back of him.
Yes, he has, as they make their way out down the straight once more. That's Peter Ursig actually, so I think they might be making their way past Peter Ursig, who's in the GT3 class. Ursig, who started towards the back of the grid. So it's Carneal and Sumter who are fairly alone at this present time. They've got Richard Lambert a couple of seconds behind by the looks of things as they make their way out into the start-finish straight. But here's the battle for the lead. It's really closed up now. Harrison coming under an awful lot of pressure as they make their way out onto the start-finish straight.
Young Leighton Clark is going to be oh so keen to make it 3 wins in the weekend in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Great Britain, but to do so he needs to find his way past Mike Johnson, heading down towards Copse Corner. Slower car ahead of them, and no doubt more traffic to be dealt with further around the lap, but Clark, he's still pushing on. You can just sense in his body language and the body language of the car that he's keen to make a move, but I thought he might launch something going into the Beckett sweepers there. Probably not the best place to do it, but he might get a decent run out of these corners there now and onto the Hanger Straight.
Well, that's why you're not a racing driver, Ian. Suggesting to lunge one into the Beckett sweepers is always a bit risky, but here they come down the Hanger Straight. This is a better opportunity. He's going right in the slipstream, and he's going to try and squeeze out the inside of Johnson. Well, Mike Johnson thought he'd got it covered, but he didn't at all. Leighton Clark with a great move up the inside into Stowe Corner. Johnson's going to try and take a little more speed through, a bit sideways there, but it's going to be Leighton Clark to have the inside line on the run down into the Vale. Great scrap for the lead in this GT3 Cup Challenge race, and Leighton Clark it is that holds on to the position.
Well, finally we've got a decent scrap for the lead mistake there from Clark. Johnson has a run on him out of club corner, and he gets the lead back. So Clark's ascendancy at the front of the field once more was short-lived. It was a few hundred yards, no more than that. Johnson goes back ahead.
Into the Abbey chicane then. Clark holding the lead very briefly, and now in towards Bridge Corner, and Mike Johnson really rocketing away up the front there, isn't he? A couple of bites at the turn-in for Leighton Clark on the steering wheel, now into the left-hander at Priory. And well, if Mike Johnson can keep this pace up, he's going to be in for a comfortable victory, but there's still plenty of time left in this race for things to change.
I wonder if this is the beginnings of a problem for Leighton Clark, but in the meantime Mike Johnson just able to pull away as he heads out of Woodcote Corner, down the straight and into the pits comes Leighton Clark then. And well, I did think there might be something wrong with his car, and he's heading down the pit lane as Mike Johnson continues along, and there's no one else within sight whatsoever behind him. Has he got anyone in front of him in terms of traffic? Yes, he has. A couple of battling Porsche Club Championship cars.
Take the time,
the driver's door is opened. The team have a quick look inside. They have a quick word with Leighton, but not necessarily a lot of work being done with that car.
Here's Peter Smallwood then. He's now in front of Bertie Carruthers as they come into the right-hander at Luffield, and this is interesting with regards to the driver of the year that these two are battling for. And they've got Mark Chilton right up behind them as well, and I think that's where Bertie Carruthers' attention is going to be lying. He's got Chilton right up behind him as they make their way into Copse Corner.
Absolutely. Smallwood in Class 2, and in 1 is Bertie Carruthers, and a car off there. Now that could well be Richard Higgins in the Porsche 968. Some flames spat out from the back of the Mark Chilton car there, but if it stays this way, I reckon that's probably going to be good news for Peter Smallwood as far as the Driver of the Year award is concerned. But all of this will be confirmed after the race, of course.
Out onto the Hanger Straight they go. A nice three-way tussle going on then as they make their way down the Hanger Straight. On board once more with Bertie Carruthers. Can he pick up any sign of, well, he's got a lot more straight line speed by the looks of things, doesn't he? He's going to have a little look up the inside. Is he going to close in enough by the time he gets to Stowe Corner? He's not. That could compromise him because Chilton's going to take the proper racing line through that corner, potentially giving him a good exit down into the left-hander at the Vale. These three really close together, but here is Mark Sumpter still unable to make his way past Carneal.
Absolutely, and Scott Kavanagh even further up the road then. Kavanagh starting to make this race his own as far as the Porsche Club Championship is concerned. He's out there in the Porsche 993. It's the same shape effectively as Mark Chilton's car, but the 993 of Chilton is a GT2 spec machine. As there we see the number 40 car of David Fissenden. It's one of the Paragon Porsches. Leighton Clark is still sitting patiently in the pit lane. Looks like the car's been jacked up, but now the steering wheel comes off, Jack. Yeah,
and he was undoing his belt buckles as well, so it looks like it's race over for Leighton Clark. A real shame after such an impressive weekend, but nevertheless, as I say, still been an impressive weekend. These three still battling super hard as they come through Chapel Corner. Now Mark Chilton could be in the position to get a bit of a double toe here down the Hanger Straight. He's tucked right in behind Bertie Carruthers as they make their way towards Stowe Corner. Has a little look up the inside. He's not going to be quite close enough there, so he darts back to the outside, just trying to keep Bertie Carruthers occupied in his mirrors. Carruthers himself is incredibly close to Smallwood, and Smallwood's gone too deep into Stowe Corner. That allows Bertie Carruthers through on the run down into the Vale.
So Bertie Carruthers in the 997 goes ahead of the 996. Can the 996? No, he can't keep the 993 at bay because Mark Chilton goes through, and that was all really a question of Chilton, I think, following Bertie Carruthers through ahead of Peter Smallwood. Now Smallwood will be keen to try and get back ahead of the black car, but the workman there enjoying watching the race from the sidelines, no doubt taking a tea break from his duties here building the new pit complex at Silverstone. Now back into the club championship. Follett goes through, 72 car goes through, and there is the 4 car as well, which is Adam Dawson, of course, and there is Stephen Ritchie. Now he, of course, is on a back marker Lappery effort now.
And of course he's now inherited second place, hasn't he, overall in the race after Leighton Clark's retirement. So he's making his way into the Maggots and Beckett's complex. That's a bit of a smoky car on the left, isn't there? Didn't quite
It's
catch
Mark
you.
McAleer. Mark McAleer, the car smoking away there, the man who won the first 5 races of the season, but the last 3 he will want to forget about. It looks as if Mark McAleer, the former Eurocar and Porsche 924 racer, is going to have to pull off, because that looks like it could be expensive.
Yeah, it looked almost as though it was the front right had taken a bit of damage, so whether that was then rubbing on the tyre or whether it was a mechanical problem, couldn't quite tell from that angle. But Mark McAleer out of this race. Yeah, the front right didn't look healthy at all, did it, as this battle continues?
No, he'd taken a clonk somewhere, hadn't he? Now then, this is the 19 car of Gary Marsh, and he's right there with Paul Winter in the number 21 machine as they head down to the Vale. This again a battle between the Class 2 996 and the Class 1 997, but here Mark Sumter is having a go at Marcus Carneal round the outside in the complex, switches back to the inside line for Brooklands corner, but that's then going to put him on the outside line for the double apex right-hander at Luffield, and it looks like Carneal's going to be able to hold on in the number 99 car.
Yeah, I was surprised Sumter decided to try and hang on all the way around the outside, though he does seem to have some good speed. They're absolutely together across the line. Brilliant racing. Sumter has to duck back in. He tries to sell the dummy, and he's going to lunge on the inside into Copswell. I didn't think he was going to do it. I don't think he thought he was going to do it, but he sent one up the inside, and a brilliant move from Mark Sumter.
Well, that notwithstanding, he's still going to lose out in the race, it would seem, to Scott Kavanagh, who's a lot further up the road. So a similar trend in both of the GT3 Cup Challenge races and the Club Championship race, with the 2-time winner losing out in race 3 possibly. But that was a great few corner sequence there between those two of the really experienced drivers in the Porsche Club Championship, putting on an absolutely great show.
Absolutely, and the first 2 races this weekend have been a little bit strange because of the conditions, but as soon as we get into a dry circuit, these guys give us some absolutely fantastic race. Surely Carneal is not going to lunge one up the inside there. He has done. Sumter should just be able to drive all the way around the outside. I don't know why he went so aggressive so early.
Well, he's got to give it a go, hasn't he? He's going for the championship after all, and if you're going for a championship, you don't want to be sitting behind a car and not trying to overtake them, do you?
Absolutely not. So out onto the Hangar Straight continues this battle with Gary Marsh and Paul Winter. It's Winter ahead at the moment. We're on board with Paul Winter in the white car with the orange streak down the centre of it. That looks like Paul Follett getting out of the way as they make their way down into Stowe Corner. Winter hitting 140 miles an hour. Gary Marsh having a little tentative look up the inside into Stowe Corner, but he's very, very close behind. It looked as though the front right wheel of Winter getting a little airborne as they drop down now into the Vale.
I should just say, by the way, that as far as the Club Championship is concerned, Chris Dye is sitting in 3rd position within Class 2 at the moment. That's going to be enough to give him the title ahead of Marcus Carneal, which is why Carneal is trying so hard. He'll be trying to hunt down, I should think, Scott Kavanagh as well, just to see if he can do anything about that advantage. But still that battle raging on in the GT3 Cup Challenge. And here is our leader, Mike Johnson.
Yeah, it looked as though Gary Marsh was about to lunge one up the inside, but Mike Johnson anyway, out all on his own, making his way past some of the slower traffic to come across the line once more and dive into the right-hander at Copse. His front left headlight is out, but I don't think that's going to give him too much grief now, as he easily makes his way past the Club Championship cars, as you'd expect, and into the Maggots and Beckett's complex now. And he's fairly uncontested for this race win. He's probably not feeling much pressure at all out there.
No, you wouldn't think so. Well clear of Stephen Ritchie, and in dominant form. He's been quick all weekend, but I think the wet conditions of the first 2 races, or the damp conditions earlier on today, have hidden his true place. There's David Fissenden going through as well in the number 40 car, but he by now is pretty much a lap down, I think. He must be a lap down. There's Chilton. He's now ahead of Bertie Carruthers as well. And Peter Smallwood has seemingly gone backwards from this battle. Also going through a shot there, you can see a couple of the Porsche Club Championship cars. Back though to this scrap, which is for 3rd place.
Yep, it's relentless, isn't it? You feel at some point Gary Marsh has got to make a move stick, because he has been shadowing Paul Winter all the way around this 3.2 mile circuit for a number of laps now, heading down into Stowe Corner. Winter keeping with the semi-defensive line, just parking the car in the middle of the circuit so that he's ready to defend if Gary Marsh makes a late move. Through Stowe Corner they come, and well, they've been pretty much nose to tail, as I say, for a number of laps now, but there doesn't appear to be a particular point on the circuit where Marsh is stronger. So I think if anything, it's going to be a mistake from Paul Winter if Marsh wants to make up this position.
And we saw a mistake from Winter earlier on in the race, of course, as well. Both of them running rather wide there out of club corner. Four wheels off the circuit over the white line. Bit naughty that. They're going to go side by side while they into the chicane. Well, it looked like it from that angle, but of course in reality there was probably a couple of lengths in it. Winter then, under the bridge he goes, round the corner, and then towards Priory they'll go, which is the left-hander. And this is still a battle raging for second in the club championship, and it's still Carneal against Sumpter. Don't forget the classes split according to power to weight ratio format, and within class 1 and class 2 all of the cars are equalised by a minimum weight system as well. And who's that getting involved as well now? It's Kavanagh. They've both got past Kavanagh. Now we missed that.
No, that's a bit strange, isn't it? Has Kavanagh got a problem or something? Because they weren't really near the back of him for a long period of time, but all of a sudden, and Paul Winter is coming in to join this as well. He's obviously going to be lapping these. That's why we saw the marshals waving the blue flag. So this just got a bit interesting, didn't it? Paul Winter now swinging to the outside of Kavanagh, and he's just about going to squeeze up the inside as they come into the right-hander now, out onto the hanger straight once more. But that's an interesting change up at the front in the Porsche Club Championship.
And Sumpter, because of all of that, has got a bit of a gap now over Carneal and Kavanagh, who are more or less side by side as they come down into Stowe Corner for what I think is going to be the final time. And Kavanagh for the moment is holding on to P2, but Carneal needs to get back ahead of him. We've got Chris Dyer sitting on the third position that he needs within class 2, much further down the road. Down to the left-hander they go then. This is the 21 car of Paul Winter, now with more ground in hand over the 19 car. He's just got past Mark Sumpter now.
They were still side by side behind Sumpter though, between Kavanagh and it is Kavanagh still just ahead as they make their way down into Abbey Chicane for the final time. He's having to go defensive, but it looks like it may be fruitless as Carneal looks up the inside. Not quite close enough that time around, and with only a couple of corners to go, well, no more corners to go for Mike Johnson. He takes a commanding victory after a great scrap with Leighton Clark, and here is Stephen Ritchie. Looks like he's going to take second place.
Certainly is. Coming up to lap, David Fissenden, I think that is up ahead, both of them in the GT3 Cup Challenge. And yes, indeed, he goes past him now on the way through Woodcote Corner for the final time. Well, this undoubtedly has been the best race of the weekend for Stephen Ritchie, and he takes second position. And we now go on board with Paul Winter as he comes up over the line, and he will confirm his third place finish ahead of Gary Marsh in fourth.
Here's a look at the results then. It was a 25-second winning margin for Mike Johnson. Gary Marsh, as you say, unable to take fourth place, and Mark Chilton held off Bertie Carruthers and Peter Smallwood to take fifth position. Mark Sumpter then did win the Porsche Club Championship battle ahead of Carneal and Scott Kavanagh, and further down the order you'll see that Brian Robinson came home in 16th place. But the C2 battle, despite being won by Richard Bennett, means that Dyer, finishing in third in that battle, is the champion in the Porsche Club Championship this season.
Well, Mike, congratulations on that win there in race 3. How was that?
Lovely, thank you very much. Yes, I enjoyed that. It made up for the weekend with being obviously very damp conditions in the first race. The second race, which was this morning, things are drying out, but we made a wrong decision with the tyre choice, and then this afternoon all paid off. So brilliant, enjoyed it. Yeah, excellent.
And how's the season been for you?
It's been well. We haven't done as much this year. I would like to hope to get into something next year and sort of progress with what we're doing. Definitely got used to knowing the car since 2007, so it's we know the car, but we just need to sort of move on and see if what's happening next year, really.
So the plans are all there in the pipeline, but what a great way to finish the season. Yeah,
excellent. That just does it as that for me. Yeah, it was excellent. So thanks to everybody, the team, myself and my girlfriend Davina. That's the team. Yeah, it all paid off. Car went well. Excellent.
Well, Mark, congratulations. It doesn't get much better than that, does it? 3 wins.
It's been a fantastic weekend. You know, we're from yesterday, obviously awful weather, but really good fun race yesterday. Brilliant race this morning in damp conditions, and then to win again in the dry. I didn't expect it at all.
And tell us a bit about your car, because it's not the newest model on the block, is it?
I think it might be the oldest, 1978. It's a 3.2 Carrera. I had this car, I bought the car in 1994. It's the first race Porsche I had. And so it's, it means a lot to me, and I've actually never won a race in it before. So this weekend, I haven't had it since '94. It's been around other owners since then, but I bought it back a couple of years ago, and just thought we'd do a few club races with it, and it's been a fantastic weekend.
Well, what a fantastic way to end the season and to get your first wins in the car.
I know, brilliant. Now we'll be back next year. We're building a couple of other cars, a couple of newer cars, and we'll be back next year to do another hopefully a full season of club championship.
And what do you make of the Porsche Club?
Really competitive. I really enjoy it. It's sort of I've done some GT racing in my time, and some FIA series and things like that. But this is wheel-to-wheel racing. I really enjoy it. 20 minutes or 25 minutes of real close racing. Really good fun.
Well, congratulations and thanks very much.
Thank you.
Steve Kevlin, the coordinator, has been doing his maths and he's worked out that the points for the Driver of the Year award for the GT3 Challenge is actually tied. So I'm joined here by the guys that are tied. This is a bit of an unusual situation, isn't it? I mean, going into this weekend, what was the plan?
Well, my plan for the year, I've been doing GT Cup, as you know, Charlie, and I wanted to do something which was a bit less aggressive, and I've really enjoyed GT3 Challenge. My plan this weekend, looking at the weather forecast, was to finish every race.
And how have you felt it's gone?
Well, I was not happy with my result yesterday. I drove like a granny in the wet, but at least I finished. Today, in the first race, I was really pleased. I picked the right type of tyres to go out on, and I had a good result. I was more than happy with it. And in the second race, Pete got a really good start, and somewhere around the track he passed me, and we had a brilliant race together for maybe 7 or 8 laps, and I managed to get him back again, and then I had a good dice with I think it's young Tom Chilton, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the weekend and the last race. What a way to finish the season. Brilliant.
Indeed. Pete, it's your first full season of motorsport. Did you expect that you would be here tied for Driver of the Year?
Never could have believed it, but I think it probably sums up the way the year's gone. It's been nip and tuck all the way through the year. If you look at this weekend, I had a good race yesterday in the wet, did really well. This morning, made the wrong tyre selection despite what the team told me to do. So I lived with the consequences of that, and as Bertie said, we had a fantastic race this afternoon. Brilliant end to the season this afternoon. I'm over the moon about how this year's gone. It's been fantastic. Good camaraderie in the pits. It's been brilliant.
So do you have any idea how it's going to be decided?
I don't know whether Bertie does.
We have absolutely no idea, Charlie, but I'm sure Pete would agree with me that if we look back to the start of the season and thought, would we be here, and making some sort of a decision behind closed doors, who was going to win it, we are both over the moon to be here.
Absolutely.
And I would also say to Steve and the team at Porsche Club Racing Motorsport, they've done a tremendous job, and I think that this can be a really good feeder series for Carrera Cup, and I really hope that people grasp the idea of it next year and we get more people on the grids, and it's a great, as Pete says, a great bunch of people doing it. Really good.
Yes, of course, because it's the first season, but it has really been nicely supported throughout the year, and I think it does have a strong future.
Yeah, I mean, particularly since there should be a lot of cars coming out of Carrera Cup next week, so you would hope that there'll be a reasonable number of people jump into this next year. I'm going to move up to Class 1 next year, and so I'm going to come back and give it another go next year, and I'm really hoping there's going to be good grids for it, because it deserves to be supported. It's a great series.
So you'll be back, Bertie? You be back?
I haven't made a final decision. I'm getting a bit old, Charlie, but I've enjoyed today so much that I might consider coming back next year, but it's wait and see.
Well done, guys, to the both of you. However they decide, I think they should chop the award in half, and you should get half each.
Oh, so it could be quite difficult.
Definitely don't
One
chop the
each.
car in half. I
One
get
each.
2, exactly. Well done, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlie.
Thanks.
Pete,
All the best, Bertie.
well
Thanks a lot.
done. Good.
Cheers.
Thanks. So, Steve, here we are, the end of the season already. Looking back, of course, it's been the first season for GT3 Challenge. How's that gone?
It's gone pretty well. We knew that it was going to be a bit difficult this year. The economy's not so strong. There are a lot of things that you can do with those sort of cars. But the grid sizes have built as the year's gone on, which is really what we were trying to do. We knew there would be fewer cars at the beginning, more at the end, which is where we've ended up.
And what about the Porsche Club Championship this year?
It's been terrifically competitive, as it has been every year for the past few years, but it's all gone right down to the wire. It was decided on the last race, and it's been fairly friendly, which is one of the things we try to do within the club, is produce friendly racing, and that's worked. So we've had very close racing, not an awful lot of contact, and everybody's ended up friends.
Which is always good. What are the plans for next year? Will anything be changing?
The major change on the club championship is that we're going to let the Boxster models in. The early Boxsters, the small engine Boxsters, are already eligible, but we're opening it up to the later Boxsters. We've got a very strong base with the cars in Class 1 all being very competitive with each other. So by putting the Boxster in now, we know we've got a strong base to compare it with the other cars, and we try and fine-tune the regulations so there is no one car that has a mechanical advantage, and so hopefully we've got a couple of competitors already that have got Boxsters that want to come out with us, so hopefully we'll put a slightly different slant on the championship next year.
Sounds like exciting stuff. Now, for the GT3 Challenge, of course, the way that it feeds down from Carrera Cup, what changes will there be to the class system there?
None. Just hopefully more cars.
Yeah.
The 997 model, which is the top end of our series, is currently a Carrera Cup car, but for 2011 those cars become redundant within Carrera Cup, and there'll be a whole field of cars looking for a home. And with the support of Porsche and some of the Carrera Cup teams, hopefully quite a few of those will come out with us. This year we've had a couple of Carrera Cup drivers come out and run with us, and they've thoroughly enjoyed it. The teams enjoy it because it's slightly less pressure and slightly shorter meetings, so hopefully we'll just get more of the same.
Excellent stuff. Now, have you got any idea of calendar for next year yet?
Not at the moment. I've got the early draft of the Carrera Cup calendar, and because we're trying to get the Carrera Cup teams to run cars with us, what we need to do is try and slot our meetings in between. The one thing we do know is that we've been invited back to support the Britcar 24-hour race for next year, which means it's great for us to end the season on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone.
Indeed. Well, it's been a fantastic weekend, and just speaking to the guys around, they all love the championship, and I think next year should be a strong one for you as well.
I hope so, and thank you for being here. It's been great to have you working with us during the year, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Thanks, Steve. Well, the teams are packing away now to bring us to the end of this race weekend at Silverstone, and that also brings us to the end of the Porsche Club Motorsport season. Congratulations to Chris Dyer, who is the Porsche Club champion, and of course congratulations to Pete Smallwood and Bertie Carruthers, who at the moment are both tied in the Driver of the Year award for the GT3 Challenge. If you'd like to find out any more information about driving with the Porsche Club, then visit www.porscheclubmotorsport.co.uk. But that's it from Silverstone. Bye for now.